Bill's always kind of been quiet and in the background, except for what he really did. What do you say about a guy who learned the craft at the feet of Gaylord Brown? What do you say about a guy that started out in the shop, ended up being vice president of one of the largest thermoforming companies in the world? I know Bill from always seeing him wherever I showed up. If I showed up at NPI, SPI, all the major shows, Bill was always there. When I had the assignment of being program chair in Cleveland way back, Bill came and gave a nice presentation on what was new in the industry. And it was at a time when we were going from overhead projectors and slides to computer stuff. And we had a whole bunch of things there, and it was very interesting to see what was new in the thermoforming industry that time when so many people were still building their own machines in their garages. Bill has 6 million miles. That's certified miles. We don't know how many other miles he has, but he has 6 million certified miles of travel. And I don't know if he ever got home, but he did occasionally. Interestingly enough, there are cities and countries that Bill sold machines and installed machines in that no longer exist. True fact. And if you want to think about how things have changed since Bill started 50 years ago, a Brown inline press back then was for $31,500. And now they're $1.2 million. Things change. Bill is also a founding member of this board. So please welcome someone who's always been there, seen most of our modern history, and made a bunch of it himself. I give you Bill Kent.
Wow, with an introduction like that, I don't know what else I can add, Rich. But I will say it's quite an honor and a privilege to be selected for this award by the Board of Directors of the Thermoforming Division of the SPE. It makes you very humble. As Rich said, I spent a little over 50 years working at Brown Machine. I was very fortunate in being able to work with one of the pioneers in our industry. And in my early years, I also worked with many of the other early recipients of the same award, and they all were very good mentors to me and taught me many things. And they also all believed in and promoted the SPE and its efforts to further promote education for those in our industry. Through the years, as Rich said, I've seen many changes in our industry. When I first started at Brown Machine, all the equipment that we were manufacturing was for vacuum forming only. But in a short while after I was there, we were developing pressure forming, and at that same time, the commodity type products of cups, containers, and lids, this market was growing dramatically, and it was just an explosive growth for machinery for both packaging, disposables, and in the heavy gauge side of the business. Many machines were going all over the world, and I was very fortunate also in selling, when I started then to sell equipment after a few years of doing the servicing and startup of it. In fact, I should divulge here, in 1966, we had put some equipment in Sweden. I have a very good friend who is sitting here tonight. When we first met each other, I'll tell you a little story about it. We had sold this equipment to a company in Sweden, and they knew I was coming, and there was a young engineer there, and they said, this big American is coming, doesn't speak a word of Swedish, who speaks English? And this fellow put up his hand, I speak perfect English. I arrived, and I think it was hello and goodbye, right, Kent? But I never squealed on him. I never squealed on him. And then they were making drinking cups. Any of you that do thermoforming of packaging items, especially drinking cups or food containers that may have a return lip that's normally lip rolled, and lip rolling can be a little bit of a chore. You have to do excellent thermoforming to achieve good lip rolling. And I would run the machine and show Kent, this is the way you lip roll it, no, you do it. And yeah, he did pretty good. He'd bring them, and I'd always say, just a little bit better. Then the company he was with did buy a lot more equipment, and I did help him start up most of it. And he said I was no longer known as Bill Kent. It was just a little bit more. So in a lot of those companies that I was fortunate enough to help them start up new lines of equipment and go through their process problems, many of them are not here today. They've either been sold, merged, or maybe they changed their business model, whatever. But it was always very interesting to see. A lot of the countries that I traveled throughout the world, I could be gone 3+ weeks and never have any communication with the plant, where today everybody has a smartphone, and before you're even off the plane, everybody knows exactly where you are and everything. I would be gone 3+ weeks because in a lot of places there was no communication, or if there was, it was basically smoke signals. You had to hope it was a clear day. And I want to thank both my coworkers and customers that collaborated with me in serving our industry. And due to my time out of the office, it was very, very difficult at times. And I also want to thank my family for standing by me and supporting me, even though I was gone more than 50% of the time for almost 50 years. And that is it. Thank you very kindly, ladies and gentlemen.